So, RPG Maker horror games, huh? You know, your corpse bodies, your crooked mans, your red hazes, ibs, met fathers. Yeah, I know it's made in Wolf RPG, but it still fits. And of course, who can forget? Ao Oni. And would you look at that, it's our subject for today. Despite me being fond of this genre, I didn't really play Ao Oni yet, and I don't know how I did that. Of course, I've seen the big purple guy run around and the Markiplier Funny Clips compilation, but after all this time, I finally played it. On a whim, to be honest. I sent this amazing tweet to a friend and said that I need to get on Ao Oni and watch the quote-unquote DLC movie, which is the one shown on the tweet, and then I went, fuck it, I'll play it. It's short. To the ones who don't know, as I mentioned, Ao Oni is an RPG Maker horror game. The first version came out in 2008. Yes, there are different versions, we'll get to that later. And as to what game Ao Oni is, well, it's a horror exploration puzzle solving game made in RPG Maker. RPG Maker first released as a way to make it easier for new developers to make role-playing games. The first version of it, called RPG Tsukuru Dante 98, released at the end of 1992. Even though it was made for RPGs, I cannot really recall a single big project that was a traditional RPG except for Fear and Hunger, though I wouldn't really call that traditional in the slightest. Please do correct me in the comments and call me an idiot for not remembering any. Hi, editing me here, I completely forgot about Off, Omori and Lisa somehow, but please do write any that you know, because I'd love to hear more about it. Alright, okay, back to past me now. Okay, but what makes an RPG Maker horror game a horror game? Well, the scares and the atmosphere, of course. Usually instead of combat, there's puzzle solving and a lot of exploration. Ao Oni is no different. Lots of scares, chases, exploration and puzzle solving. Enough talk, let's get onto the game already. I played the 6.23 version, the latest and complete one, mostly because it was the first one I found when I searched for Ao Oni. We open up with the game asking you to name our protagonist, the default name being Hiroshi. I'll talk about him in a bit. After proceeding with that, we're greeted with a huge mansion with our players, or, well, victims, in front of it with the text saying, "We heard a rumor about a mansion in the outskirts of town. They say there's a monster that lives there." A simple but effective premise for any horror media. Then in order, we meet Takuro. In this version, I'd say he is quite competent, cool-headed, and the one that actually complements the mansion. And he also teases Takeshi about him being scared. His personality differs in spin-offs, specifically in the 2.0 movie. He is kind of a bully, but here he isn't. Mika, a girl. She doesn't really have anything going on. She has something, but I'll talk about that later. And just like Takuro, she's also kind of a bully in the 2.0 movies. Takeshi, kind of a tough-looking guy, but an actual scaredy cat. He's the one that brought everyone to the mansion, and funnily enough, he's also kind of in the same group that Mika and Takuro is in the 2.0 movies. But even then, he's still really easily scared. And then, last but not least, we have Hiroshi, the main protagonist. He's kind of a nerd, but, you know, that makes him the most competent out of everyone here. He doubts the monster's existence by saying that it's just scientifically impossible. But of course, as we all know, he is about to eat his words really soon. We hear a shattering noise and Hiroshi goes to check it out. But it was nothing special, just a broken plate. Here, we get our first and very important item, the plate shard. Making our way back, we notice that everyone has left. On the left side of the building, we see two locked doors, and one of them has a shadowy figure inside. By the way, if you try hard enough, you can get in, but I wouldn't suggest it. Going upstairs, we see a map and more rooms. The room on the right is unlocked and we see the closet moving. It's just Takeshi. It's Takeshi being scared. It's just nothing special. He doesn't say anything, just shivers. Pushing away the chair, we find a library key and we leave him behind and... oh, make our way to the library. Here we... Anyways, we look around and we find another key below. Phew, I thought we'd be dead, but nonetheless, I see that Takeshi is missing, and only his handkerchief remains. With the new key, we can make it to the 3rd floor, where we find 2 futons, one of which have a discolored wooden towel next to it. I remember our nice trick of shoving things out of the way. Yeah, we'll be using that ability a lot. It's not really an ability, but let's call it that for now. We drop down to a room with a piano in the middle. It has a weird red stain on it. I wonder what that could be. Since we can't do much yet, we explore the 1st floor with our handy map to see where we go next. A tatami room awaits us, but of course, going back on the left we find our trusty lighter, our other important item. Something else feels odd about this room. Oh well, it may just be me. Deciding to head back to the left, the doors are now unlocked. In a bathtub we find a Phillips head screwdriver and a soap in the closet. And oh, how could I forget? Since this game is a semi-puzzle game, there is item combining. And here we have our first one, the soap and the handkerchief. Soaped up handkerchief in hand, we go and clean the piano, revealing Sorry, I'll try and stop doing that. After shaking him off, we go back to the piano room and notice 2 shelves. We interact with the left one and wouldn't you know it, the safe is behind it. So before continuing to the puzzle itself, I'd like to address a few of my issues with the game. The biggest one being the exploration side. I praise the game for its exploration, but sometimes I had absolutely no clue what to do and I was just wandering around aimlessly until I triggered a cutscene or something gave me an item. My other one semi-ties into this a tiny bit. Some of the puzzles I could really easily figure out, but with the piano I had a few issues and it's mostly just me being an idiot. I always had the right idea for it, but I just couldn't do it for some reason. I'll complain about another one in a second, but let me explain how this one works first. On the safe you see 4 symbols, those represent the piano keys. Our main goal is to match the numbers on the symbols. Let's say if your numbers are 9, 4, 1, that means that the first number is 1 because this key is rotated, the second one is 4, self-explanatory, the third one is, well, 1, self-explanatory again, and the last one is 6, because it's another rotated key, and the number got rotated because of it. Anyways, after grabbing the contents of the safe, we meet Mika. We're joyed to see a familiar face again. Asking about others is futile though. No one knows where anyone is. The same goes for asking her about going with us. She doesn't like the idea of going around the mansion with a monster inside of it. Hiroshi solves a chair-pushing puzzle, netting him the lighter fluid. He fills up his lighter and makes his way to the attic. We see a door and wonder where it leads. But before that we hear a bang, a door opening behind us. But we don't have to fear anything, it's just our pal Takuro. He asked us if we saw the monster yet. Hiroshi, still in disbelief, says yes. Takuro mentions that every exit is blocked and says the dumbest shit about splitting up. He makes his way to the 1st floor. Not much we can do but tell him good luck. Now, about that door. Well, wasn't that anticlimactic? Oh well, might as well grab the doorknob. Who knows, maybe it'll be useful later. Going around, we find ourselves in the tatami room once again. I can't exactly put my finger on why, but I have a feeling I'm missing something here. Ah yes, that. See, the issue is, on my first playthrough I did not notice this at all, even with me looking at the map, which, you know, shows that there's an extra room. I even made a tweet about it. about my distaste towards this puzzle, but literally the next day after waking up, I realized my humongous mistake. But my monitor is still kind of, the brightness settings don't really show it off well. Anyways, going in we see nothing, actually. Here she pulls out his trusty lighter and now we can see, sort of. In front of us is a candle. Lighting it reveals a room with a bookshelf. Moving it aside reveals a jail cell with a shiny item inside. I wonder what that could be.
Why is this good? Why is this good? Ah! What the hell? How was I supposed to do anything? What was that? What am I supposed to do? Hi! Pick it up with a sharp. Oh, okay, that was way obvious. I'm terribly stupid. Sorry about that. Ha ha!
Yeah, so let's make sure we close it behind us. There we go. Nice and locked. And now that the Oni has left, we can leave ourselves, and it's time to go to the basement. That was Mika's voice. I think I heard it from the kids' room. I better hurry. Somehow I shook him off, but sadly, leaving Mika behind, let us enter the basement. In the basement we see shelves, bookshelves, something like that. Heading to the left of us, in a room we see a chair. A new sort of mechanic is shown here, that you can push items out of a room and use them elsewhere. After pushing it, we grab the shiny thing that was in the room. With a new item in hand, we see a familiar face. It's Mika! Oh, I'm so glad to see you. You made me worry for a second. Escaping the Mika Oni, I guess that's what I'll call her, we go back to the basement. Any guesses on what to do next? Well, of course, you have to, push the top 2 shelves aside and find a panel with screws on it. Screwdriver in hand, I tried to unscrew it, but oh no, it's not the right one. And where would the right one be? Well, if you notice this line of light grey on the shelf back at the chair room, then congrats, cause I completely missed it on my first playthrough. Oh well, that was on me. Grabbing it, we unscrew the metal plate, revealing a safe. The code is unknown to us yet, so we venture to the right. There's a room in complete darkness. Our lighter comes in handy again. Using the key, we get in, light the candle, and see scribbles on the wall. One is some guy looking through the cell, and the others are weird symbols. If you go outside of the cell and look through it, you'll see that the symbols mean something. This is the code for the safe. From it, we get the annex key. We'd go further, but the doors are locked. That's weird. Of course, again. But chasing her off, we get into the annex. It's an old red-looking part of the mansion. Just from the outside shot, you could not tell that this is part of it. I don't really know if this spot is something I like. Some of the puzzles I do, but one of them are kinda eh. Though I don't think this is gonna be too much of a hot take, but to me personally the mansion is my favorite. I know it's a basic answer, but I think it's where Ao Oni works best. Moving on, the left side is completely dark. Our lighter ran out, so sadly we have to go upstairs instead. We see a lamp, and it has a light bulb in it, so might as well take it. The right only has a fireplace. I don't think we have to worry about that right now. Upstairs, we see a sliding puzzle. I guess we can call it that. And it gives us more lighter fluid. Going back in the dark room on the first floor, we can light a candle. And will you look at that? It's Takeshi. He got caught off guard by us, but we're happy to see each other though. He is scared as always, but he only says that it's a matter of time till he gets caught and that there's nowhere to run. Which is, kind of funny if you think about it, because how did he get to the annex in the first place? I don't really know, but Mika also somehow went to the kids' room before us, so I really have no idea. he continues saying that he regrets his choices and that he brought us here, and then just runs off, screaming. In the room we see a statue and my other least favorite puzzle. I guess we can call it a puzzle. Mostly because I had zero clue on what to do with it, or how to do it, or when, where. But what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to push this statue back to the entrance and then drop it downstairs. In my first playthrough I got an Oni spawn here, so that was quite unlucky. Yeah, I forgot to mention this, but this game does not only have set chases. The Onis can spawn anywhere after a certain amount of time. Maybe not anywhere, but pretty much everywhere. Speaking of that, might as well talk about the Oni while I push the statue away. We don't really know too much about it in the game. We know that their names mean blue demon despite them being purple, and the characters also call them blueberry, but we don't talk about that. It is also quite a big monster and has many forms. You will see what I mean later, and I do not mean the victim Onis. The statue, in its broken form, lies down on the ground. Its eye, a blue stone, is now in our possession. An area we haven't gone to yet is the upper part of the first floor, so might as well check it out. Here we have 2 doll rooms. The room on the left has a 3 dolls and a sliding puzzle we don't really care about right now, actually. We see that the 3rd doll has a red stone for an eye, and we think, how can I get that out? But before we can think of anything, let's check out the room on the right. There are 2 dolls, one has eyes and the other doesn't. I guess we'll worry about that later. But, we pushed the statue down, it broke, and we got, a blue stone. What if we burn the doll and we get the red stone? So let's go to the fireplace, right? Anyways, we light the fireplace, burn the doll, and wouldn't you know it, we got a red stone. Now, we go back to the doll room and let's try our stones. Aha, see? Now the head fell off and... what do we use the head with? The sliding puzzle. Oh. Poor Takeshi. Hiroshi doesn't really react and just continues onward. In the sliding puzzle we can insert the doll head to solve it instantly at least. It reveals a safe, which we can't really do much about right now. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Ah, yes. Do you guys remember that little note at the top floor? Now that has a code on it, so let's put it in. Another basement key. Just how many basements this place has? I'm sure that doesn't mean anything. Oh, not you too, Takeshi. Well, that leaves me and Takuro left. Well, actually, speaking of, we haven't seen him in a while. I hope he's okay. On the very right side of the annex is a basement. It's really dark. Let us navigate somewhat to the left, push this pot away, and the lights are back on. On the shelves we see a picture book. I don't really know what the contents of it are, but we do get a bookmark. In the room above we see a bathtub. Draining it gives us the red key, just like how we got the screwdriver in the beginning. We push the bathtub away because yes, we have to do that. I didn't know you could do it until I looked it up, but we see the stairs. We'll use it later. On the right side we have another room. A room with 2 black boxes in it. Pushing those aside, a secret door is revealed, but none of our keys fit. The door that is visible has colors on it, and a keypad next to it that has a panel that we can unscrew. We can even put in our bookmark, and it shows dots in different colors. Now we just have to count the dots and input them in the right order. Going in, we instantly get chased by not just Takeshi Oni, but Mika Oni as well. The left room has a closet in it, so we can hide. Do beware though, to not come out early. You need both of them to leave. The carpet looks a bit strange, doesn't it? Oh, would you look at that? Under it is a disc. Exploring further, we find none other than Takuro. Hey, finally, once again. No clue how he got here, but that's totally fine. He gives us vinegar, which allows us to wash the rust off from the red key. With that, now we can go to the staircase. There's a jail cell, a quite big one, with buttons. The disc helps us solve this one. After solving the puzzle, a metal stick is our reward. Combining that with the disc, we get a key to the blocked off door. In this weird tunnel, we see a ladder, one going out. Oh well, it looks like a way out. Oh, thank God. Let's get Takuro and get out of here. Oh, well, let's just leave. And with that, it's just us now. Hiroshi and the player. But, to make sure, let's head back. Yup, nowhere to be seen. But there is something shiny in here. A backdoor key. I wonder what that's for. Am I forgetting something again? Oh, of course! The doll with no head. If you put a light bulb in it, it lights the room in a very specific way. And it's showing a shadow. And it's pointing towards the wall. Behind it is a door. The back door! And now we're nearing the end. It's the old house. If you couldn't tell, this house is old. It's full of rot, mold. Looking around, we don't really find much. On the second floor though, there's a room with no doors, so let's check. Dropping down the hole, we're in a room with 5 dice displayed. Since we can't do much about that, we explore more of the second floor. A room with scribbles in it that abruptly end. Let's just cut it open. Going in there, there's something shiny, but we immediately start hearing the chase music, so let's hide quickly. Huh? Everything is full of scribbles. At least we got our shiny die, right? Putting it into the dice display, we get a code of sorts for the next puzzle. The far right room on the first floor contains an almost church-like interior. On the bottom right bench we see a long stick. Solving this puzzle is actually not bad. I think it's one of my favorites in this one. Solving it, we see more stairs. In this very clean basement actually. On the left we can find hospital beds with curtains and a rope ladder. If we close every single curtain, we see shapes. Remember them. The room below is quite dark, but there's a candle. Using our stick, a key can be obtained. I'll talk about the other room in a second. With our key, let's explore the other room we couldn't on the second floor. Huh. Weird dots on the wall. I'm sure that was nothing. Let's unscrew it. Oh, and nothing. Great, well, I guess let's check out that broken painting. There's a safe behind it after all. A cat? No, that is definitely not a cat. Because indeed, it's Blockman, or Fuwati, however you wanna call him. Is special since he lunges forward after a set amount of time. He can be quite tricky. Successfully escaping him and pushing the chair to the safe, the code for it is the shapes we found. Time to head back to the basement and oh god, it's him. But it's not just him. There are so many Onis here. There's a Blockman, Hunchback Oni, Caterpillar Oni, Deformed Oni, Jellyfish Oni, and the Blob Oni. Moving close, the Hunchback will come at us. We need to open the door quickly, but it's useless. Well, until it isn't. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a giant hole going down to the basement. I haven't mentioned it yet, but Hiroshi will not go down if there's no light in the basement. Here we can use the rope ladder. And in a picture frame we see a blue piece. We'll take it for the last puzzle. And the reason why I decided not to mention this yet is because, well, once you grab the piece you can't get out of the room. So the ladder is required. And also it didn't really have much relevance until now. On the second floor there's another one. You know, where we got chased by the Oni. And the last one is in the Oni room. But surprisingly none are found here. Weird. Well, let's grab the piece and... Takuro? How did he survive? Oh well. We're just happy to see each other though, and him saying the opposite of what he said in the beginning is really refreshing, so we go together. Now, where's that door? Ah, right there. Alright, let's put in these pieces in a... That's not real after all. But honestly, this is the most clever way to reveal a victim turning into an Oni. Mika's was fine since it showed that the Oni can do it. Takeshi's was kind of whatever for me, but Takuro's is brilliant. We escape his grasp, put in the pieces, unlock the door behind it, and we book it. Outside the Oni chases us, but we make it. We escape. The camera slowly pans to the Oni. I ran until I got back to town. The monster was no longer following me. We see a shot of the house. What was that blue thing? I don't know, but Takuro and the others are still missing to this day. The very last thing we see is a person trying to escape, but to no avail. The Oni is after him already. And that concludes Ao Oni. A simple, yet effective at times little puzzle horror experience. Before closing off this video for good, I want to touch on a few other things regarding Ao Oni. First, the cheat codes you can get after beating the game. So, you know how I mentioned that you can change Hiroshi's name? Well, if you change it to any of these, various things change in game. Blockman. It changes every single random encounter into a Blockman Oni chase. South Park. The code gives you an entirely new plot where everyone turns into South Park characters. The story starts the same, but it quickly turns into a comedy segment with the characters die in goofy ways and shout the iconic catchphrase.
Oh my god! They've killed Kenny! You bastard!
First one to die is once again Mika, then Takuro, and then in the end you walk with Takeshi, but he meets his end as well. Takeshi turns into the Oni and chases Hiroshi out. At the end Jimbo says, "It's the Ao Oni, it's coming right for us," and then proceeds to shoot his head off. And then he asks, "Hey boy, are you okay?" And Hiroshi replies, "I'm saved." At the end, Hiroshi only says, "If there's one thing I learned from all this, it's that when you go to an empty mansion on the outskirts of town, everyone says has a monster in it, nothing good can ever come of it." Hiroshi. This turns the portraits of the characters into their older ones. I'll talk about it a bit more later. God mode. Think it's pretty much self-explanatory, you just cannot die from the Oni. Timer. This shows how long a chase will last for. GMU. The very last one, there will be a person resting in the kitchen. His name is John. He is a reference to the English translator of Ao Oni. If you interact with him, he'll say stuff like, "Japanese is hard, the Ao Oni is scary, wondering if there's anything good on YouTube," and so on. If you make Oni chase Hiroshi to the kitchen and cease chasing, going back to the kitchen will make him turn into the Oni. And those were all the cheat codes. Most of them are just fun Easter eggs, while one increases the challenge and the other decreases it. Now, do you guys remember when I mentioned that there are different versions of Ao Oni? Well, there are 6, but only 4 of them are notable. I won't go into full detail regarding everything, just a general overview, and on some of them like big changes and puzzles and stuff. If you're looking for a really good in-depth one, I suggest Ben Again's really good video on the versions of Ao Oni. Version 1.1 was the first version of the game that was released to the public. The only official release was in Japanese. It has the most characters out of all of the versions, and the characters who appear in later versions, Hiroshi, Takeshi, and Takuro, have different personalities. In addition, Megumi exists in place of Mika. It came out in November 2008, and of course an English translation exists now. The game opens up with, on the outskirts of town lies a mansion. Very recently, rumors have started to run amok that a monster has taken residence there. Then we see Hiroshi and Kazuya, his best friend, discuss a new game when bumping into Takuro's squad. Remember them from the intro? I know I said that's how they act in 2.0, but it all came from here. And they also, I think, act like it in 1.0. I haven't watched that movie yet. And in the novels, I haven't read the novels yet. But anyway, Takuro has Megumi, Takeshi, and Ryota. He resembles newer versions of Hiroshi and doesn't really appear in anything other than this version of Ao Oni. They force Hiroshi and Kazuya to go to the mansion with them. Going in, the plate shatters. Again, Hiroshi goes to investigate. Takuro receives his quote-unquote friendship tax and tries to get out while bad-mouthing Hiroshi. Failing to get out, the Oni charges at them. Cutting back to Hiroshi, he is stunned that no one is here and that the door won't open. He goes and investigates. You can find Takeshi shivering, still as useless as ever. In the bathroom we can find Ryota's dead body with a library key. No wonder he got removed. In the library, we see the Oni cutscene again. Getting the bedroom key, we get chased by the Oni for the first time. We make it to the bedroom, close it and meet Megumi. Hiroshi asks her to join him, but she decides to stay, because as long as the Oni is out there, she is not getting out. No matter what we do, she doesn't budge, so we just leave her be. Searching around, we find more keys and, get chased a bit. After a while, we get to the jail cell part, this one, and then we arrive at the archive room. Sadly, nothing notable is here really, but we do meet Takuro. He asks about Megumi's whereabouts, and we give him the key. Takuro makes a run for it, but meets his fate really soon after that. We take back the key and head to the basement. Here we find a room with a photograph depicting two boys and their parents. The Oni approaches, but we hide quickly. Oni confused, he leaves, and we do as well. With a newly found key, we head deeper and find a rope ladder. We run back to get Megumi and convince her to leave with us. Once at the ladder, the Oni is eating it. Here we got to Kazuya, waking up in the bathroom. Remembering what happened, he leaves, but comes back to save us. He sees a well and grabs a rope ladder from a nearby shed. The other two were running this whole time. They make it back into the basement, see Kazuya, and the three make a run for it. Going up the new ladder, they drop it down, they see the Oni climbing, and then they flee. My head was spinning by the time I ran back to town. I had completely lost sight of that monster. I could never speak to anyone about anything that happened today. No one would believe me anyways. I couldn't help but wonder, what was the truth behind that mansion? It was all a complete mystery. Come to think of it, that photograph is still lying inside my pocket. Obviously, this version is very different from the other ones. The ideas are there, and you slowly see it grow as you go through the versions. This has the most amount of characters. Kazuya only appears in the novels after this, and most of them also look different. We also never really got an answer to Takeshi's fate. Did he survive? Is he trapped inside? Is he dead? We will never know. You also notice the lack of puzzles in this one. Well, the lack of actual puzzles. We'll get to that. It changes really soon. Version 3.0 released in March 2009. It officially only released in Japanese. Of course, there's an English version now. A really easy difference to spot is the opening. It's the same cutscene that 6.23 ended with. Same goes for the rest of it as well. We don't see the bullies, nor Kazuya and Ryota. Our four main characters, Hiroshi, Takeshi, Takuro, and Mika, instead of Megumi, the ones that we all know and love, stay with us through every single Ao Oni media from now on. They will never change. Another thing you'd notice are the portraits. There were free use resources. The Grim credits the sites. Noramura for Hiroshi, Maker Let's Go for Mika, Bay Forest for Takuro, and Atelier for Takeshi. Everything is the same in the beginning. Plate shatter, Takeshi shivering, Takuro being in the archive room, though he doesn't die here yet. Mika is hiding in the bedroom. Then we find our first big puzzle. The piano one. It's different from what we are used to. It doesn't require the soap and the handkerchief. The safe is in the kitchen as well, and you'll need to find the note for the rest of the code. After finding more keys and doing the puzzle, we'll go to the basement. Here, you'll run into everyone, but it's not a long conversation. The Oni was hiding behind the text box and killed off Takuro. It is a rather clever way of going about killing him off. Hiroshi finds the iconic rope ladder and searches for Takeshi and Mika. Going back to the ladder, the Oni is eating it yet again. Takeshi trips and gets killed off. Hiroshi leaves, but he begins to feel quite sleepy and decides to take a little nap. The Oni bursts into the door, but it is revealed that the Oni was Naoki all along. Naoki and the others appear and wish Hiroshi a happy birthday. How sweet of them.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Hiroshi. No miso yaro.
Then Hiroshi suddenly wakes up. It was all a dream. Weird thumping noises can be heard in the other room.
確かにな。
あの役拓郎でいいだろ。
確かにな。拓郎もいたあそこに。
いた。
いたよね。
ミカの後ろにいた。
違うな。何の音だこれ。
わからん。
めっちゃ怖いんだけど。
セーブしよう。この下と右下の部屋。音がやんだかと思った。
違う。最後に残ったのは。
いやまだ2部屋あるんですけどね。
まあ、2部屋があるのか。
暖炉の部屋とさ、右下部屋。
あ、そっかそっか。
近づくと出てくる可能性を鑑みて。
うん。
ほい。ほい。ほい。どっちから行こうか。
お好きな方。
下
あーなんだスクワット
違うだろ。
ヒンドゥースクワット
なんででっかくなってんの。
ヒンドゥースクワットしてる。何自動的に動いてるの今。
いや、今俺がやった
あーでかい気持ち悪い気持ち悪いよバカだあいつ。
あいつ頭が悪い。しばらくこのままでいいか。
やばいやばいやばい。なんでそっち行くんだよ。
地下の方が広いだろう。
Successfully escaping near the attic, we find the first version of the Oni room. But before being able to get in, we find our second puzzle, one that was not present in other versions, the circle puzzle. Stepping on different circles can highlight one or two other. Standing on the middle one will clear the highlighted ones. After you get all the circles highlighted, a door will appear. Inside the Oni room, there are some Onis that only appear in this one, like the Clock Oni, Tall Oni, Thief Oni, and the Satellite Oni. Yes, you did hear that correctly. The room to the left has the Blob Oni. It's very slow, so getting the key from behind it is really easy. Hiroshi, with key in hand, goes to the front door, but the Oni begins chasing him. Hiroshi escapes in the end, saying, I ran until I got back to town. The monster was no longer following me. I never told anyone about what happened that night. If I tried to tell anyone, they would not believe me. Though, there may be a few that would. Anyway, I wanted to quickly forget about what happened. I wonder what exactly that monster was. I also wonder if it's still in the mansion, or wandering the mountains. The corpses of Mika and everyone else may still be inside the mansion. I'm going to stop thinking about that. It's best just to forget about this incident as soon as possible. And as you can see, differences have been made, like adding puzzles, portraits, and the like. Naoki is mentioned, but he is never brought up in game. but he does appear in spin-offs. Our next version would be 4.2, which was released in August 2009, but it has so little differences compared to the next version, and itself is a demo for that version, I'll be skipping it. Version 5.2 was released in September 2009. This is the very first version to have both a Japanese and an English release officially at launch. Much of the dialogue, gameplay, locations, and the events were altered. This is the version with the most amount of puzzles, and some are quite difficult. Most of the game is just the 6.23 version, the one I already talked about, so I'll just say anything that's new or was removed. First up, the puzzles. Length puzzle. This is in the archive room. When you look at it, it first says, stretch them side by side. Which one is longest, which is small. Then line them up alright, small at the bottom, on top the tall. Then the puzzle opens up, 5 balls labeled MF, IF, RF, LF, and the TH are seen. The player can push them around. He must solve the puzzle by moving the ball into the proper order. The solution is MF, IF, RF, LF, and TH. These represent the 5 fingers. Solving it gets us the cipher for the next puzzle. Abacus puzzle. Oh boy, so this is the hardest puzzle for non-Japanese speakers. It's so difficult that this version comes with a text document named Please do read this or you will get stuck, saying the following. In general, the puzzles in this game can be quite tricky at times, but there was one puzzle which is fairly Japan specific, in that you need the knowledge of a certain, let's say, tool, and how to use it. It's got to do with counting. In order to be able to solve the puzzle, so far I have not been able to come up with any satisfying idea on how to quote-unquote translate this puzzle into English or German. I consider the way it is now as too hard and basically untranslated, since the puzzle refers to a very special cultural item and context which needs to be translated. However, I have not been able to come up with, for example, any similar tool that is known or used in the English or German speaking world. The puzzle in question is concerned with an item called cipher, a paper that says S on top and has 4 columns with some black dots in them. Maybe you happen to know a specific tool. Maybe you'll be able to solve this puzzle by yourself, but in case you're stuck because of this puzzle, a hint of solving it is at the far end of this TXT file. So, in short, this puzzle, as the name implies, uses a Japanese abacus called soroban. I'll read the explanation from the Ao Oni wiki page. Each column has 1 5 bead above the center line and 4 1 beads below the center line. When the 5 bead is pushed down towards the line, it is worth 5, and each 1 bead pushed up towards the line is worth 1. Each of the 10 possible positions of the beads in each column correspond to each of the 10 familiar digits. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Translate the beads to a 4-digit code to solve the puzzle. I'm sure I don't have to say why this would be a really difficult puzzle to non-Japanese speakers and why it doesn't really appear in other versions. But if you do end up playing this one, the solutions are on the wiki page, or you get the hint from the TXT file. But if you possibly have a soroban, good luck to you. Diary puzzle. This one is in the basement. Here's the table with the equation 6912 plus 2865 equals to 1518. The equation appears to be mathematically impossible, but it serves as a hint for the upcoming part of the puzzle. If the equation's numbers are reversed, back to front and flipped upside down, then it will read 5982 plus 2169 equals 8151. This is a proper equation and shows that the numbers of the next part of the puzzle must be reversed and flipped to obtain the correct answer. Once you find the red diary, it will contain numbers. One side will have x's and it will equal to a randomized number. You'll find a note in another room. Combining it will give you an equation. And now the equation, for example, will look something like xxxx equals to 9521 plus 2598. But as we learned, it must be flipped and inverted, so now we have 8652 plus 1256 equals xxxx. The answer now would be 9908, but since it needs to be flipped and inverted, it becomes 8066. The code will give you the annex key. Doll puzzle. From what I can tell, it's the same as the 6.23 version. You get the doll head, plop it right in. Coloring puzzle. It is encountered in the annex basement. By moving a cursor around a panel, you can change the color of 22 shapes. A single moon-shaped piece at the top cannot be changed from yellow. By quitting the puzzle, Hiroshi will explain how to solve it. You must color each piece so that no 2 pieces of the same color are touching. After solving the puzzle, you get the moon piece. The moon piece is for a puzzle I'll talk about in a bit. Other puzzles that I don't know the name of. There's a paper on the top floor with incoherent scribbles on it. Using a plank, it'll reveal a code for later use. This same plank can be used for another puzzle on the coloring puzzle to get us another code. It's used to get an item that is related to the final puzzle. Then there's this chase puzzle, where the player controls a doll head representing the Oni and has to chase down a survivor. And then the very last puzzle is the indent puzzle, where you'll need to get the moon, star and sun pieces. Using these unlocks the door to the final area. Speaking of areas, I spoiled it during the puzzles, but this is the very first time we see the annex. And this is where we find a new Oni variant. It is actually exclusive to this version. It's called the Roach Oni. Their special ability is that if you stand too close, it'll start sprinting, making it a quick and instant death. This version also has another unique thing, multiple endings. You know, there's the ladder. You know, the iconic one. And here we have a choice to escape alone, or only with a few people, or save everyone. The shorter one, of course, is where you leave, just alone. So let's talk about that one first. Hiroshi goes up the ladder, gets chased by the Oni, screen fades to black, and Hiroshi says, "Running for my life, I somehow made it back to town. The monster wasn't chasing me anymore. As for my companions, from whom I had gotten separated in the mansion that night, I never saw them again. What was the real identity of that monster? I guess I will never know." The ending where you save everyone involves you going back and grabbing your friends. First you'll find Mika, but she refuses to go with you due to the Oni being out there and not wanting to leave Takuro behind. After this you can grab Takuro from the library and get Mika as well. Takeshi can be found in any of the closets. It's random. Returning to the ladder, the Oni is eating it yet again. This time everyone is able to get away. No one is left behind. Finding the shed key, you're able to go to the shed in the garden. Here the Oni will give you your final chase. One that does not end. You'll have to get to the other side of the shed by any means so that you can escape. Reaching the other side gives you the epilogue. It shows how everyone is doing. Takeshi is still having nightmares. Takuro and Hiroshi on the school rooftop reflect upon what happened and hope that everything was just a dream. Though I kinda did lie, because Mika doesn't really get anything. One last cutscene plays where we see 3 people get trapped inside of the mansion. The Oni appears and it instantly cuts to the mansion outside. We never heard of them ever again. Never be so reckless as to enter a mysterious mansion in your town just for fun. If you incur the wrath of the former occupant, you might not get away that easily. Especially if no man is living there anymore. Well, I think you can see that we're getting really close to the finalized version of the Ao Oni. The last 2 versions were 6.03 and 6.23. 6.03 is just a demo of the final version with a few minor differences. It came out in July 2010. Here we get the new portraits introduced. Hiroshi sadly lost his scarf, but luckily every other spin-off gives it back to him. Mika and Takuro have a different one in this, unused after this version. I think it was a good decision since the new ones fit them better. This version ends at the annex, the game fading to black and Hiroshi saying that the story will continue in 6.23. The only different thing is the Oni in this version, because the only other Oni is Mika, mostly because the annex is not available. This version also features the cheat code system. The Blockman one is unavailable though, because you don't get to the old building. The jail code has a different image as well. I, already talked extensively about 2.23 in this video, and I think me explaining the differences gave you guys a good enough idea on how it changed. I'll mention Ben again here, again. Check him out if you want more info about the differences. And well, that about wraps it up. This video at first was only gonna be about me playing Ao Oni, my thoughts on it, but as I kept writing it, it became bigger and bigger. And now here we are, a long video with every version included, comments about the novels and movies and such. I'm sorry to anyone and everyone who expected like a bit of a different type of thing in the versions department, but I hope that the whole package was enjoyable for you. I would love to hear everyone's thought about the video, especially what I could improve upon. you know, and the like. Oh, and do let me know if you guys would like to see more Ao Oni stuff, perhaps. I watched the 2.0 movie with friends recently, and it was quite the enjoyable experience, so do let me know. And I guess it is the end now. I don't have much else to say, so it was I, Lunar Whale, and bye bye everyone.